I'm so stoked to watch this new 4K transfer with you. This is like years in the making.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And there was like a smaller version of this film on the previous disc from years ago, and to see this on widescreen is nice.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And you being the cinematographer, I guess I should say who we are. You being the cinematographer, Christian Bernier, and me, the director, Lance Munguia. We haven't watched this film together in what, 20 years?
No, it's been about that long.
I remember when I wrote this text. This text was very helpful in getting the film financed. Believe it or not.
I love that text
Yeah.
because it's like we're about to set on an adventure,
Yes.
and it's clear from the text.
And I also love Wolfman Jack's voice. This was a Wolfman Jack impersonator.
Yeah.
Who really just absolutely gave it that 1950s American Graffiti feel, which is what I was really going for.
No, absolutely.
I still remember us watching this exact footage at Photochem for the first time. This was actually the very first thing that we shot in the film, the first day.
Yep.
Little Justin.
No, I remember watching this footage and just having my mouth open just because it looks so cool.
And little does anyone know that this is in a parking lot at Loyola Marymount with like this tiny little bit of grass, and I think we cut some reeds from somewhere else and bundled them up and put them around. But I really wanted this magical storytelling, this very magical realist flavor, that you and I talked about a lot, and always having things floating in the air. In a cinematic piece, you always have to have stuff floating around.
Really, because it gives
Catching
it
the
like a density,
Mm-hmm. And then, probably 15 times, 20 times in screening this film, a projectionist would stop the film and say, "Oh my God, I need to put the anamorphic filter on," because it was squeezed. It was a filter we got from Panavision because I grew up watching spaghetti westerns and things like that on VHS or else on TV where they would squeeze the opening titles, and I always loved the way it looked. I thought it was a cool effect.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that idea when we talked about it.
And Jeff, just such the badass, in the scene. And this footage is actually the footage that we shot that made Tracy Morse at Panavision want to give us a camera every weekend whenever we needed it, because he was like, "Wow, I thought this was going to be silly, and it's kind of badass."
Yeah. Yep. No, Jeff certainly looks heroic in these scenes,
Yeah, and I mean, and your photography, I mean, it's just so stunning. I mean, to see it, especially now in 4K after so many years. Dave Riddick as Death coming up, and the first person that played Death.
Yep.
Just phenomenal. I know
there
that
he is.
I know that
all
you and
backlit.
Yeah, and Justin. I mean, we couldn't find him for this.
What's that?
Justin, we never could find him. But this umbrella came straight out of an Akira Kurosawa movie that I saw with a little old lady that would carry around this Japanese umbrella, and I wanted to sort of just keep that Japanese quality to the film.
Mm-hmm.
And backlight, you're backlighting everything here. It's just beautifully the way we arranged these shots.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fortunate we could move the camera around so everything was always backlit in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was really a lesson that I learned making this film is, just the more you can backlight everything in cinema, it's just, it just makes it nice and soft and beautiful. Who cares if it makes sense? Just every picture a painting.
Yeah, well, it creates a mystery about a certain image, I say.
And then here, every member of the crew literally are holding those same reeds that we took from Loyola, to try to like match cut this and make it look like the same space, which obviously it doesn't, but it was supposed to be like entering this kind of dream.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems very magical at that moment.
I love the way you framed this here through the cavern opening, beware the spinach monster.
And I love how Jeff is drawing a line in the sand at this moment.
Yeah.
So the boy gets to decide whether to cross it or not.
Yes, and he had this wonderful way of incorporating Tai Chi, real Chinese Tai Chi, into swing and rock and roll. And I love the way he just uses his hands. And he was such a master of his body, just in terms of the way he moved and the presence that this guy has. And he leaves childhood behind, leaving the teddy bear behind.
Yeah, I love the symbolism right there. There's a scene, well, it won't be for a while, but where Jeff is trying to make the kid laugh after they've fallen off the motorcycle.
Yes.
And you could see what control he has over his body in that scene.
I know.
The way he contorts his body, it's amazing.
He could have been the next Charlie Chaplin. I mean, this guy had an amazing comedic... Actually, I talk about him in the past tense because I haven't seen him in so long. I mean, I don't know where he's at. Nobody's been able to find him for this commentary. But Clifford, Hugo, and the Red Elvises in all their glory. Here's my cameo coming up right now. You're about to see me any second. I had to have a cameo in here. That's not me. It wasn't quite yet. Monty, this guy is so cool.
Yeah.
That's me right there.
That's you.
Yeah. I know you and I spoke over and over about, giving this whole thing this kind of a fairy tale childhood, kind of quality to it, like, just over the top colors, which that Fujifilm really lended itself to. I mean, we had that.
Absolutely.
George, the AD.
Yeah.
And how much footage did we get from Fuji? Do you remember? I mean, I think we got like 100,000 feet of free expired Fuji stock.
We got something like that, but it was all in like 100-foot rolls.
Yes. What is that? It's like 2 minutes?
For crash cams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, so we were shooting in 2-minute blocks.
Minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything, all of the stuff that you're seeing here, I'm pretty sure, at least most of it, maybe not now, not this scene, but most of that was shot without any budget. We were literally just driving to Death Valley every weekend and saying, hey, let's go make a movie.
Yeah, and the filmmakers were mostly the actors in the film at that point.
Yes. Yeah. George, the AD. Yeah. That was Justin's dad, that was playing that role, your king material.
Mm-hmm.
Clifford, whose Betty was the craft services.
Yep.
I love the broken glass.
Yeah.
This all taken right out of something like Lone Wolf and Cub. We were the Mandalorian before the Mandalorian was cool. At a micro budget.
Yeah, and I mean, this is his first fight in this new world, and it's going to be with the were they the Pin Pals?
Yes, the Pin Pals. I love the idea of bowler bounty hunters, man. I mean, that was just like I was so jazzed on that. Look at his glasses. Those were an exact replica of the glasses that I had in college at the time, and I had these tape around, my glasses, and Jeff said, hey, how do you see through those things? And he put them on, and I said, hey, you look just like Buddy Holly. And we laughed, and I said, oh my gosh, that's it. We gotta make a movie with Buddy Holly as the martial artist.
Yeah, when you guys would start telling me about the ideas you had for the film, I thought you guys were a bit on the insane side. And but I thought if we ever accomplish anything close to your dream and your vision, then I think we'll be all set,
Yeah. Sometimes when you don't know what you're doing, you can do anything.
Absolutely.
But this is really one of my favorite scenes. Rhyolite there in Death Valley is just so utterly, beautiful and kind of tragic in the way that it's destroyed. And then in your camera work here, this really showed me exactly what you can do, and just using a wide lens, just everything wide and just moving around constantly. And, we were getting 50, 60 setups a day here, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the wide lens really exaggerates the action, and it makes everything look bigger.
Yes. And my favorite move is coming up. It's the broomstick move. You remember that one? I think it's it right here.
Oh, yeah. That always gets a laugh.
Yeah. Literally, it was a shoe on a broomstick. And Kareem, goes back for the count. Kareem was so awesome. And Paul there was the assistant cameraman from Loyola, who also just happened to be bald, so he fit in to play a bowler.
Yep.
But this is just so badass. I mean, Jeff just brought so much presence to this. I mean, he was such a star.
Yeah.
Pick up the spare. One of my favorite lines. Should have waited till I was drunk. Just I loved how we were always constantly talking about playing with shadow, and this is here coming out of the shadows. It's just it's so just Sergio Leone Western, Wong Kar-wai, Chinese.
Yep.
The pins, and then I had to throw in my homage to Clint Eastwood, so we hired a Clint Eastwood guy. One of the reasons I hired him was because he looked like Clint Eastwood coming up, this guy, but he also was a pyro guy, and he's the guy that did the explosion. So I had him come out, do the explosion, and then play Clint.
And he was the Marlboro Man too for a while in L.A.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. He was on the billboard.
Yep.
A billboard which I think we then took later with Six String Samurai when it came out.
Oh, nice.
The Grungies. That's Noah. Noah was Jeff's brother, who unfortunately passed away, but a funny man, Noah. He literally gave us a few of the best lines in the movie. I mean, he was always trying to think of a line. He actually did a song for the movie, the one that's playing later.
Oh, yeah.
And that was an accident. Jeff missed the thing, and then we came back and shot it hitting the guy in the eye because I figured it would be a good gag.
Yeah. Yeah, all the time we were saying, like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this or that,
Yeah, and that was kind of the freedom that I think you and I had on this is that, and I think why we had so much fun making it was the whole film was a big giant, like, oh, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And, there wasn't that much pressure. I mean, we were really allowed to do the film the way we wanted to do it.
Yep.
Which was a rare opportunity. I mean, it really was.
No, it was. We were really blessed with HSX and Michael Burns.
Yes. He did his own pyro work and then lit himself on fire.
Yeah. He seemed to enjoy it, I seem to remember.
He did. And Cliff, this is like another one of my favorite images. He's so crazy in this film.
Yeah.
I really wanted the whole film to just be this child's nightmare, like this dreamscape, which is why we started using, you get hit in the back with an arrow and you don't die. We're setting that up for later, or maybe you do, but who cares? Because you can come back. And then the gumballs with the grungies, all of that.
Yeah.
Spanish monster carries your soul away.
And I love the fact that we did death like without a face, as a void as his face.
Yes.
And that was kind of a happy accident.
Yeah, it was a happy accident that turned into necessity, because I know the first day of shooting, the guy, Dave Shipp, was awesome, but he was working. He couldn't always come back. So we went, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so we shot that one shot purposefully in total silhouette just because we thought it was cool, and looked at the dailies that first day of shooting and then went, wow, we got to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And it worked because
I was trying to see how dark we could go, because I knew it might be an issue because we had so many different people playing death. And then it turned out that there was no detail at all, that in that Fujifilm it falls right off, Black Stew. And but it ended up really working to our favor.
And this turned into this kind of a slow motion car chase, which again, the grungy is designed to just kind of hide their hair and their look, and just create menace through what you don't see versus what you do, which is really kind of a lesson that we took in making all this. And the gumballs, throwing gumballs into the car again. This child's eye view of a post-apocalyptic world that we were really going for, I think.
Yep.
Just. And this was all done once we had a budget. We had a budget to go back and get that truck and the car, and so it was when we came back to Death Valley in May, I think, of the following year.
Yeah.
And the Red Elvis's music, I mean, that became such an anthem for the visuals. I mean, I'm sure I annoyed you constantly, like on the way to Death Valley, just playing this music over and over again, talking about like how we can set up a shot, like, with this music, and the music just really came to drive the visuals in a way.
No, absolutely, and really kind of helped define what Brian Tyler ended up doing with the film.
Yeah, he did such an excellent job. I mean, Brian, to this point in the movie, really hasn't even fully come in. I mean, he's doing the score here, but there's so much Red Elvis's music in this area of the movie. Brian just kind of comes in and ties it all together.
He does.
This is also one of my the sequence coming up is one of my favorite shots that we did. It's like we were constantly. I was constantly wanting to go wider and wanting shots to last longer. It's just to be kind of meditative. I thought there was a great joke coming up here, just by letting the shot play. This one right here. Just let it play. Huge. I was like, you're like, okay, yeah. Can we cut? Nope, don't. Let it play. Let it play. Let it keep going. Because these guys just keep running down the road. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. And epic at the same time.
Yeah, they look like ants in that shot. Because they're so tiny. But it really works.
And another one of my favorite sequences. I'll just say they're all my favorite.
The gumballs, yeah.
Yeah, the gumballs coming out, and we put Fuller's Earth and I think some sort of a powdered thing all over the car to make it the same color as the background. Just trying to production design everything based on what we had available.
Yeah.
And then here's Noah Falcon's song. Yeah, Noah, who was a brilliant singer, in his own right, sounded just like John Lennon. And
really?
And he was great. I don't know if you ever heard any of his stuff, but he was very good. And who played the grungy and did his song for his brother here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a nice tribute to him because he passed away not too long after this.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah,
a lot of people who worked on this film are no longer here, unfortunately. We're here to kind of carry the torch for them, including Jeff. I don't know if I'm not saying Jeff's dead, but I mean he's certainly not around. I mean, he's got no presence on the internet, and haven't been able to find him. But lost touch with him.
I have a feeling he'll turn up.
I think he will. He's kind of like a Bad Penny like that. And Justin, we haven't been able to find either. Justin's missing in action. I know he played college baseball, and then he just kind of disappeared. I don't know where he went.
Huh.
But again, like, look at how the slow motion catches the vibrancy of these gumballs. It's like, just epic.
No, I loved playing with the film speed. I mean, we did end up speeding it up at some times, and other times we do the slow motion, like build up the scenes, for example.
Mm-hmm. Overlooking the Badlands. I mean, speeding it up just slightly. Going to like 22 frames, 20 frames. Just to throw a punch or to swing the sword. It's a technique that's used a lot in Hong Kong films. And Jeff, being an action director from Hong Kong, I mean, being coordinating stunts for many Hong Kong films. He really understood a lot of those techniques. I mean, I learned a ton, working with him on this film.
No, absolutely.
The use of the wide angle lenses when you want to really draw out the action and make the action look faster, but then going to like really, really long lenses when you want the action to be compressed and just very quick motion sword moves. Very telephoto, kicks and punches and sort of big movements all done really wide,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right here, what is that, like about a 400 millimeter lens? Them coming over that ridge?
Yeah, I think 600 actually.
Yeah.
It was long.
And when Jeff and I wrote this scene, we were sitting in my bedroom in my apartment, at Loyola, and we were playing this music and just picturing the camera pointing up at the clouds and just silhouetting these guys in these wigs and just creating this action sequence really out of nothing. Just to because if it's really beautiful, I think you can do just about anything, in action. I mean, it's all about the poetry, to me.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I learned a hell of a lot about shooting action scenes from both you and Jeff.
Yeah, this here is one of my favorite shots here. Not this one, but that one. Yeah. But more so when he opens the trunk again, and he has this look of concern that's just very slight, but you start to get the idea that this guy cares. He's it's the old save the cat principle. Jeff in a pinch, Buddy would save the cat, in the tree if he had to. Only if he had to.
Yeah.
But these guys, all crew members. I think that was the second assistant director and one of the assistant cameramen, and then I think we had a stunt guy thrown in there for just good luck.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about. We visualized this as we were writing the script, and just trying to create action literally out of nothing. Because we knew that the people we were going to be doing stunts with, oftentimes would not be professionals. But Jeff being a total professional, knew how to deal with them, and then here we go with a lot of the ramping. I know we got a special kind of a ramper from Panavision, didn't we, to kind of just quickly go from slow motion to fast motion in the same shot, just to enhance it.
Yeah, you did it with a knob. It was really nice.
That's the shot right there. Yeah. He stuck with him. I always used to be so impressed with these windmills every time I would drive through Palm Springs, and I always and again, so much of the creation of this film was just us thinking about what could we find that we had on hand. This was literally an abandoned house, I think, that we found somewhere in Palm Springs on a location scout.
Mm-hmm.
You, me, and Jeff. You were there for some of the time, but Jeff and I spent, I don't know, many, many weeks just driving around California looking for interesting locations. And the family. He was so
I
awesome.
love the the spinning fans in the background, the thematic elements that we used in this film.
Yeah, again, everything about motion, everything about just continuing to have things moving in the background, compressing shots, wind, blades, dust, you name it. It's like I think I studied Mad Max and films like that, looking for the ways that they made all of those shots interesting, and it was just constantly movement. Anywhere you can possibly put it.
Absolutely.
Just the worst family you would possibly leave this child with.
Yeah.
He's like, oh man, I don't want to. He looks like my little girl right there. That's how she looks when she doesn't want to do something.
Oh yeah.
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 And it also just, I wanted to play it like those relatives that you really don't want to go visit, that are just too smothering, and you got to listen to all their stories, and it's just the slightly off, or I should say majorly off family.
And they want to eat you.
Yeah. And Jeff, this movie was such an opportunity for him to show his comedic side, which he had never shown before in a film, and he had done several films in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, they always make the Westerners play the villain. It's like they're, the Chinese are always the heroes. And Jeff just had such a wonderful comedic timing. He really did. It was a side to him that he could be so goofy and so, just surprising. And I think that was something that he never got to really do in any of the films that he did in Asia. This was really sort of. He told me once, if Six Ring Samurai is the only film that I'm remembered for, then I'm okay with that. I wish that wasn't the case, but he does. He doesn't. I don't know where he is. Again, just keeping this theme going of this child's nightmare, just that I wanted to convey with the whole film, just to create this magical realist kind of world where things don't quite make sense the way that they would in a dream. Very Fellini, very I was very inspired by a combination of Fellini and Kurosawa. And I know we spoke so much and probably watched so many samurai movies and.
Oh yeah, we had a ton of influences going into this film.
And it was really kind of an opportunity. The Ratchet. If I ever make a sequel, there's gonna be a whole thing. If I do a series or something, there will be a whole thing on the Ratchet. Like, why a Ratchet? It's like, again, just with this kind of just surrealist. Also Salvador Dali, I was very influenced by. I know we talked a lot about him. Just the idea that stuff doesn't really have to make sense. It's important to them. So, in a dream, things don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I carrying a leopard right now? I don't know. I just had him pick it up at the last minute. I was like, take the leopard. It'll be funny. Because that's the kind of dream world that we're in. You can use a ratchet to start a car. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. And here come the spacemen.
Yeah, just out of nowhere from the Windmill City. And then always going back to this Americana. I think a part of it was just how I grew up. Growing up in a very kind of suburban, world. I was raised in part by my grandmother, which really came from that era. And, so she was very polite and she would say stuff like that. It was just very Americana. This was our second assistant director. He had an awesome head. So we painted it white, put him in a suit. And Jeff, this is a part of the film that really didn't come through. The idea that he likes to drink and stuff like that, but it was kind of a family-friendly film.
Yeah, it is family-friendly.
Yeah, we kind of purposely stayed away from the blood, on the hits and things like that. I mean, I noticed that from the spaghetti westerns. These guys would get shot like multiple times and they would go down and you'd never see any blood. And there was a practicality to that. Like, Leone didn't want to have to use a ton of blood and squibs and stuff like that unless it was like a very important moment. And, we kind of just wanted to be able to move fast and also, again, keep with this kind of just magical realist, surrealist kind of a vibe where, stuff just happens. You can get shot with arrows. There's no blood. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
It was all very intentional. And then I've always been surprised that kids like this film. Like little kids like this film, and it's like I've always thought, really, that's odd. But there's not a lot of gore.
True. And it's like when we do see gore, when we do see blood, it's used very little and to make a point.
Yes. And again, this idea of movement, we purposely hung these sheets around, because it was always windy out there, thus the windmills, and so it just created this wonderful, vibrant background that, to me, says so much. A lot of films, they have to rely on so much action. They're constantly fighting. To me, those aren't the most interesting films. The most interesting films are all the moments between the fight, the lead up to the fight, the motions, just, again, poetry. It's like ballet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And editing. James Frieza, the editor of this film, was amazing. Who he unfortunately, played the bartender. And I'm sorry he's not here to do a commentary because he passed away. But
yeah,
this sequence is made very much out of nothing. Like, of course, ahead of time we kind of knew how we wanted to cut it, but this is my favorite shot right here.
That's like your fourth favorite shot you've mentioned.
I'm gonna have about 20 by the time I'm done. I always try to. And I know you and I combination, like I know we always were trying to make every shot look like a painting. Like look like something you could blow up and put on your wall if you wanted to. That to me is a goal.
Mm-hmm.
We brought in all kinds of fans here. In the foreground. We brought these, these things in just to again give this foreground background idea of motion here.
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we would like design a shot or start talking about a shot, and I would just have no idea what you guys were doing until we would do a run through, and then I would see, oh, look what Jeff set up, see what Lance had an idea for this shot, and it would start coming together as we worked on it, which was a really nice way to work.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Justin was actually not acting there. He was really cool.
Yeah.
Poor little boy. We had a jacket right off a screen for him, but it was actually raining that day, and this was all shot without any budget. This was the original shoot, before we had any money. If I remember correctly. As was all of this. And this was the earliest stuff that we shot. That shot's the shot that got us kicked out of Death Valley, right there. That got us kicked out of Death Valley, when the Rangers showed up and watched the entire thing and then said, "You're not supposed to be out there," and we got fined, we got kicked out of Death Valley, and we never hurt any animals or made huge tracks in the desert or anything like that. But yeah, we were removed at the end of that sequence. And then it wasn't until we met Michael Burns and we got more financing for the film about 5-6 months later, that we were able to come back and finish the film. Because they wanted us, if we had to go out there again, they wanted us to be there with $50 an hour Rangers and like a bunch of stuff that we didn't have, money we didn't have. If you notice the Ranger, the Archer on the right, that's Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's Jeff. He's got a little more sway than everybody else. That was Jeff. He oftentimes would play an Archer or one of the villains. He would get hit. He would throw a punch his buddy, turn around, then take the hit. This was also, I think, on the first day that we went to Death Valley, and that's that shot you were talking about. That's the silhouette shot that kicked off the idea of death. It was one of the first things we shot, if you remember, and that silhouette in dailies just looked so intimidating. And this was an accident.
Yep.
Not the entire fall. We went back and shot the entire thing, but Jeff lost his balance on the bike, and then we turned it all into this scene. Which, by the way, I just interviewed Leanna Creel for the accompanying documentary to the film, and she fought to keep this scene. I know that Michael and some other people wanted the film to be shorter, and this was the scene they wanted to cut, and I was like adamantly against it because it became kind of the heart of their relationship and the reason why he goes back for the kid at the end.
Yeah, it's like this is like a defining scene between those two. Their relationship.
Yeah, and it's real. It's I love seeing the bad guy or the hero with no name come in and have a heart. It's like I'm a softie like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was talking about this scene earlier, like just physically, what an amazing job Jeff does.
Those moves are not easy. He's really on dirt there. There's no pads.
Had to hurt.
Yeah, there's no. We didn't go through there and rake the place first and put down some soft dirt for him. He just was like the Terminator. This guy. I mean, literally. Jeff was. He would sleep a couple of hours a night, on these shoots, and he would act all day, and then he would be working on costumes at night because a lot of people don't know he was also the costume designer of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he really could have been the next Charlie Chaplin or something like that. I mean, he had such a great comedic timing and he had such a great physicality.
Yeah.
Coming from 20 years of studying martial arts. He was actually, Jeff was actually a classmate of Jet Li at the Beijing Physical Sports Academy, studying wushu there. They were in the same class together. And that's where he learned his martial arts, and that's where he learned how to do all of these amazing things. He told me that he came over to China on a scholarship because this Chinese team that he had competed against in America saw him, but he didn't know how to jump. He said, I didn't know how to jump. I couldn't jump very high. And I went to China and I saw these 8-year-old kids jumping, 5 times higher than I ever could. And he said, then I just figured out it was all just in my mind, and that I could do it. And then I think that just kind of came to define his personality, that he could do whatever he set his mind to.
Mm-hmm.
Which is both good and bad, because it also made him kind of a stubborn guy. That's George, the assistant director, who was integral in helping us get a camera from Panavision initially, and who, it's just amazing. Devil's Golf Course.
Yeah. Trying to push a motorcycle through Devil's Golf Course, not easy.
And again, going, the sound design in this film, Jeff Witcher, the sound designer, it's like the constant jiggling of spurs and little hangy things on the archers' outfits, and sort of the echo of the radio playing, just this constant kind of oral design going on next to the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
He was some member of the crew. I don't remember which. And here's my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Gabriel.
Yep.
Gabriel is the real deal, man. I mean, this guy is such a sweet person, and I think he was 18 or 19 when he did this.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually auditioned Gabriel as the stand-in for the little boy, and we had a different stand-in for the boy. He was obviously way too small to be Justin's stand-in, but he was so impressive in his audition that I actually wrote this role for him.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to have him say, "Follow the yellow brick road."
Yes. Wherever you go will always be the same. Yeah. We wrote that line in my apartment at Loyola Marymount. This Trona salt mines. Again, it was one of our sort of just things we were scouting around, and we saw this old abandoned salt mine with all of these piles of salt everywhere. And here's James Frieza. James Frieza was a classmate of mine at Loyola Marymount, and he came to Loyola not to really want to make films. He came there specifically because he wanted to be an editor. And I met him, and I really liked him, and I thought, this guy wants to edit, I want to direct. I hate having to tape little pieces of film together. I literally almost walked out of film school because I had to pass this Gunsmoke class where you would have to put these little film trims together, and it was so annoying. Mm-hmm. And James was just a meticulous guy. I mean, he knew, he enjoyed all of that aspect. And also, I mean, look at that comedic timing. This guy was a comedy genius in a way. I mean, he was so funny, and we would sit in the edit room and we would just laugh. And unfortunately, he passed away of cancer a few years ago. But this is for him, man. I mean, I'm really, one of the reasons I'm working on this restoration with these people is just to honor the people that aren't here. And you, Christian.
Thanks, man.
No, this was truly like one of the favorite experiences of my life, making this film with you.
As it was mine. It was an amazing time. We got Tracy Morse's wife there, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And the Red Elvises said that even to this day, they're constantly asked to play this song because of the movie, because of the scene. Mm-hmm. It's really a great song. This was Xenia, just riffing on the guitar, and Igor, from the Red Elvises said that this is Chris Isaacs inspired. He wanted to do this more realistic Chris inspired song from I forget the name of the song now, but
Wicked Game.
Wicked Game, that's it. It's his tribute, the Red Elvis' tribute to Wicked Game.
Mm.
with a little Red Elvis twist.
And of course, that was Justin actually sneezing.
Yes, that's right. No children were harmed in the making of this film. Justin was awesome. Justin, we literally, we auditioned so many little kids, and I would have them, as part of the audition, just go run and hide around the theater at Loyola, and give them a little direction and say, somebody's chasing you. You got to go hide under the seats and stuff. And Justin's audition was just so amazing that we had to cast him. He was such a wonderful actor and just a really great kid.
Yeah.
And Jeff told me that, he could be a world-class martial artist someday because he was so physically, coordinated. And I did hear that much later on he became a professional, a college baseball player, doing very well in college baseball. But I never found any articles on it, and we haven't been able to track him down since. So I don't know what became of Justin. The scars we could have done a lot better. I wanted scars like everywhere, but there was just not enough time, not enough money.
Mm-hmm.
That is Jeff's dad right there. That was Jeff's dad. He was a lifelong Marine, drill sergeant.
Oh.
Which I think really affected Jeff growing up.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Yeah. And that guy yelling at Justin was also the same assistant director that played that spaceman.
Mm-hmm.
I love the boing. And what a beautiful shot. I mean, I love the way the light just reflects on all of these beads and the production design. Pedro Pano. And the lighting in here, the way you kind of mimicked the candlelight, made this kind of really beautiful soft lighting. I love that.
Well, what do you know? It talks.
Love this edit right here. This was planned. The edit with the umbrella that's coming up. We pops back into badass mode.
Yeah. He does. And I love this kid, man.
Oh, Pedro was
kid that's, yeah.
Awesome. He's such a really good actor. The idea was, you got Richie Vallee and Buddy Holly. That was my inspiration for this. You're just sticking with this theme of Americana and rock and roll and, just rockabilly versus heavy metal, just all of these themes around music. That edit right there. Love that edit. Thank you, James. That's James. Get a picket fence.
Get a real guitar.
And I love how I had him just clean the kid's face. Let's see a little bit of empathy there. It's an effective scene.
Yeah.
Jeff and I found all of these costumes just by going to thrift stores on Melrose.
Oh, really?
We would just go to the thrift stores on Melrose and look for 50s style clothing and then just take them home and thrash them. And I can never watch this frickin' scene without thinking it smells like death in here. Because because you so badly wanted a motive. Like, why is Death coming out now? Why did he take so long? Like maybe he was on the can. He said, Lance, just add a flushing toilet and then just have somebody say, it smells like death in here.
Did I say that?
You did say that. You did say that. It stuck with me all these years. I was like, maybe I should have done that. I was like, maybe that joke was a little too much.
It would have been too much, I think.
Yeah, it would have, but it was still really a funny joke. There was always a contest going on to see who could come up with like a funny line or a funny joke, and I'm very collaborative like that. I get way too much credit as a director anyway, so it's like if we think if we think of a great line, we'll just throw it in. it's the kind of freedom that I really missed later making, some other film work in another film that I did. I didn't have that kind of freedom. I was very much kind of tied to the script because the producers are worried about, rights and someone screwing up or whatever, and it's like I love the freedom that we had making this film. It allowed it to be what it is. That's the reason we're talking about it 20 years later and not some of the other stuff.
Yeah. This was kind of a defining shot for me.
Yes.
I mean, I loved it when Justin grabbed the umbrella.
Yes. And this was also some of the earliest footage we shot. We shot in these sand dunes in October, and it was really no big deal, or maybe November. And, it was 75, 80 degrees, not a big deal. But then you get into the second part of the scene, and that was the stuff that we shot later, which was a lot harder because it was all of a sudden spring and it was 120. But this was still October here. I really learned why people don't shoot in Death Valley making this film.
Yeah, it was 140 degrees in the shade.
Yeah, something like that. But this is one of my favorite scenes right here.
Yeah, mine too, actually.
And I love the fact that his shoes came off. His shoes came off. We did several takes, and I kept the one with his shoes coming off, even though the continuity didn't match, because it talked about death. It talked about, when someone dies, you take their shoes off, and you bury them, and it was just such great symbolism. And here we actually did use some blood because I wanted it to be a moment. And this is Brian Tyler's amazing score kicking in here. And by this point in the film, we're relying less on the Red Elvis' score, more on Brian Tyler, because I wanted the film as it went on to get more and more serious. There became more stakes. The higher the stakes get, the more Brian's music kicks in. And then the way the light falls on his face here. Some people may not know there was a big debate in the Independent Spirit Awards about giving you their award for this film because of the work you did as a cinematographer. And some people are arguing, no, there's other films where there was a lot of indoor lighting and that's a lot, that's what we want to reward, and this was all shot outside. They don't realize how hard it was to shoot and match this footage outside, and the work that you did to make all of this look the way it looks.
Yeah, 6 months later or so, or however many months later it was?
Yes.
Try to match it all up.
Yeah. And we were on a ticking clock because if we didn't get out there within a certain amount of time to shoot, A, it was going to be way too hot, and B, here you can see this is later. This was the ending of the scene that we shot in May. The lighting is not quite the same, but it's super hot out there right now. And if we'd waited too long, Justin would have been too old. We would have lost all of the great footage we had already shot because it'd be too late.
I love that part where he hands him the sword because it really shows the role of reluctant hero.
Yeah.
As Jeff is, where he unfortunately accidentally killed that kid.
Yeah.
And it really shows on his face.
And this is real Chinese Tai Chi from mainland China, that Jeff then turned into with rockabilly flair. He really worked on this. It's he wanted it to have a traditional Chinese feeling, but also the swing of rockabilly, just get the little flourishes in. And he would always, he could be a very, I'll just say, confident person, and he would say, it's like the real, people don't know real Tai Chi. This is real Tai Chi,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wrote that line. Wait a minute, what?
You come all this way without saying.
And again, credit for this scene, man. I mean, this is all day for night. You shot all of this day for night. And it just looks beautiful. I did another film later. I wish I would have shot the whole thing day for night like this. It's like it just, really, really was effective. I don't remember. Did we shoot this early in the production, or was this after we had more funding with Michael Burns?
Pretty sure this was when we had funding.
Yeah, I think you're right. I look at this film so differently now, than I used to. Now being a father, now being a little older, it's there's something about it. Love that transition. That's Brian Hoodenpyle right there. Brian Hoodenpyle shot all of these shots. We would send him. He was your second unit DP, I think, right?
He was.
And he would just go out into the desert in the middle of the day and just shoot amazingly cool stuff. This was us, but that was him. Just the tracks in the desert.
Yeah, Brian was great. He did a great job. He would come back and almost always surprised me with his shots, like how good they were.
And Brian, nothing you ever told him to do, he would not do. I mean, there was always a way to do it. And that's the kind of spirit that I think we had making this film. It was like nothing was impossible. It's like, let's figure out a way to do this. Mm-hmm. And here the kid really did collapse. But, anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I told him to get up to the top of that hill, and he did. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I mean, it's... I always say, on a film set, I mean, you just need positivity, and it's like one person without that kind of an attitude can really kind of screw up the whole vibe, because this was an incredibly hard shoot, and it was only because everybody was sort of invested that we were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And, I never could have done it without so many people's help. That was Tracy Morse firing that arrow.
Nice.
He was supposed to be firing at a bird, but then later on we created this whole scene. I love how he makes it sound like a nice recipe for wine or something. It's like, it's 1957, a good flavor. And this was Stefan Gouger. Stefan was our gaffer, and he also played Death because he fit the build. And he would literally throw this costume on, do a scene, get out of costume, and then go gaff something, go carry some equipment around. I mean, he was amazing. He was a friend of mine from my film school days, and unfortunately he passed away recently too. Very young. Love Brian's score here.
Yeah.
He's using those taiko drums and just an amazing talent in Brian Tyler. I mean, Brian's IQ is just off the charts, man. I mean, he plays something like 50 different instruments. Now the biggest composer probably in LA. I mean, he's done every Marvel movie you can think of.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, he credits Six String Samurai for that. He said that when they came to him first, they looked at Six String Samurai and they said, if this guy can do this movie and pull it off, we're willing to take a chance on him. That's what he told me.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was very surprised that he said that. But he is amazing, and this was his first released film. I think he'd done one other before this, but I think this was the first film that came out. Balalaika, just all kinds of stuff going on here. One of our few visual effects shots coming up. Obviously. That was literally somebody pulling a rope with the guitar down the hill. That's the visual effects shot. Jason Dunn did that. Another friend from film school that had not really had done anything before this. It went on to be a very, very big matte artist in Hollywood now. I just realized on this 4K transfer you can see the wire. I just saw the wire pulling the guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice it.
Ugh, epic shot. Love that shot.
Yeah.
And this was all choreographed pretty much on the fly by Jeff. I mean, Jeff, very early on in the process, we discussed how to do the action, and he said that there's two ways to do it. You either rehearse with a team of professionals for a long time, and then every move is accounted for, or you just get to the set and you improvise and you sort of create the action with the edits, knowing ahead of time what you want the edits to be, but sort of just working with what you have, and that's the way they would do it in Hong Kong, and that's the way we did it, and it worked. It worked. Because he was dealing primarily with people who were not professionals, so primarily the action was done in edit.
Yeah, it worked great for the style in which we were making this film.
Mm-hmm. Here's my favorite shot in the whole film right here.
Love this shot, yeah. I seem to remember there was like a little windstorm, and somebody was like, "Jeff, just run up to the top of that hill." That was you.
That would be
run
me.
up to the top of the hill and look heroic.
That's exactly it. He wasn't even, I don't even know if he was in costume. We were just like, I just kind of like looked out and I went, my God, there's a giant windstorm coming. Instead of saying, run for cover, I said, Jeff, put the glasses on, get up on top of the hill. This is going to be freaking great. Wouldn't it be cool if he's just running up the hill? Stefan again. Stefan. I caught Stefan once. I was over at a friend's house and he was there. He was filling out all these 8x10s. And it was a picture of him in the death costume and he was signing 8x10 glasses to sell on eBay. My gaffer, who also, by the way, became a very prominent director in his own right. He did a film called The Owl and the Sparrow, I believe. Which was in Vietnamese. He was half Vietnamese. And he died of an unexpected heart attack just a few years ago.
Wow.
So we're cutting here from the basement of Loyola Marymount, where I stole those shots to, the desert. Jeff's literally holding his breath, or I think he's breathing through a tiny little pipe underneath the sand here. So you're going to see him come up. He's literally breathing through the sand in a straw. See the straw?
Yeah.
Yeah. That man sacrificed for his art in this film.
No, Jeff would do anything.
He would. I'd
anything
be like,
you
Jeff,
asked him to do.
Get naked and go running through L.A. It's going to be great. Oh, okay, sure. I think part of it was that, initially when we didn't have any money, I took out $25,000 in loans from Loyola, and he put $25,000 from some business that he had into the film, and that's the seed money that started the film. So he had skin in the game. He was like, I'm going to finish this film. I don't care if it kills me. You know, and he got his money back.
Yeah.
But and then now we've just gone into the soundstage at Loyola. This was all part of the stuff that was shot before we had funding. This was done no budget soundstage at Loyola. Again, I was constantly in those days, really still today, just looking around at stuff and imagining what could possibly work as a set. This is a great mall. It'd be great for the zombie apocalypse. I'd, board up those windows. It'll look great. This is all the catwalk at Loyola, that was over their soundstage. And Leanna reminded me that after we had money, they had to enroll me in a class at Loyola again and pay for it so that we could get back into the soundstage and do pickup shots that we missed here early on. So we came back as a, quote, student production of about $1 million to finish. And this is all taken directly from E.T. Like this shot coming up right here. It's the Bambi forest of E.T. The guys with the flashlights walking through the fog, coming up on Elliot, looking for E.T. That was totally where I ripped this off from.
Yeah, your influences are showing, man.
Yeah, kind of like my underwear. Yeah. And again, that's Jeff playing the guy about to be hit, and that's Jeff playing Buddy. So, Jeff was about the only person that could really do all of these stunts. So, for at least the beginning of the film. So, I think we had, somebody else in the costume there, but the fall, that's Jeff right there. Yeah. Let's just roll a big light under Jeff and then call that Justin for some reason. It's like, doesn't have to always make sense, right? At least
it's funny because people see something like that and think like, I did this amazing job when we were just moving a light and it just looked really cool.
Well, again, that was the beauty of this film is it was our opportunity to say, wouldn't it be cool if, wouldn't it, it'd look cool if the lights, so what if it doesn't make sense? It's fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this arena thing, we actually cut out some really great footage with Jackie Hugo, who was Clifford's daughter, Clifford's sister, who we had shot with all of these kids in cages. And I might still have that footage somewhere, but I had all of this footage of all these kids in cages in their pajamas, like ratty pajamas like this. And my idea was that these were all kids that had kind of been stolen in their dreams. You know, like this was this kind of nightmare world that, you know, it was a thing that we just never got to really complete. But, you know, that was the idea, was that this world just didn't make sense because it was sort of, you know, just, you weren't really sure if it was real.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole idea of like, you know, okay, so now we're in hell, which is this kind of subterranean technological terror, these windmill people, and then Cliff, who's gone on to be actually a very good photographer in his own right now.
Nice.
Cliff Hugo. Yeah. And I remember somebody coming and visiting the set, and Justin was trying to do this Tai Chi thing, and he was, at that time, we had a tutor, and he was only allowed on set like 4 hours a day or something, and we spent all this time setting up, and then and Justin was like so sleepy, and he was just tired that day. He'd spent all night like playing Xbox or something, and my buddy, who was a filmmaker, was visiting the set, and Justin just wasn't acting, and he walks right in the door as I'm yelling, "Justin, don't forget to act! Don't forget to act!" And Justin just pops right into it and just does this like amazing Tai Chi job, and cut, done. You know, okay, Justin has to leave, done. This is my favorite line right here. "If you were me, you'd be good looking." That's not nice. Get him. But what fun. We got to do this again, Christian.
Happy to, man.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay, so if anybody's hearing this, you can send the check to Lance Munguia and Christian Bernier. we will gladly make another film for you. So much time goes by so quickly, man. You don't even realize it. You know, 10 years go by and it's just a blink. That was me. I did actually a lot of the voiceover for this film.
Yep.
"The great and powerful windmill god, bow down before me." That's right. What? I think we had Jeff on a trampoline there. You can kind of see the trampoline in the background. You know, you just had him just jump off of the trampoline and come landing. There were, I think, 3 different swords we were using. One was covered in tinfoil, made out of wood. One was a real sword, and the other one was made out of foam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, you know, it's amazing how seat of our pants we made this film. I mean, it was literally just found locations, a lot of it. And, you know, I think this is just a light we placed up on the catwalk and leaving hell.
Yeah.
And then popping up in, now we're in Tejon Pass, I think. You know, this is no longer Death Valley. I wanted a completely different look, like as they're getting closer. But you can notice all the burned out trees. If we'd have shot about a month earlier, you know, that whole place was just black. It was after a big fire up there. And I used to drive back and forth from L.A. to, you know, Bakersfield, that area where I grew up, and a little town called Delano. And there was just such an epic looking fire up there at one point that had burned out and just left everything. It looked like a nuke had gone off. And I just remember driving through it and thinking, this is going to be perfect. I have to shoot up here. And I got off the main road and just drove around some of those back roads up into Tejon Pass and found these locations up there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, stuff in the air. Fuller's Earth. It's your friend. It's the secret to George Miller's success.
Yeah.
There's the ratchet. Oh, there's the ratchet. Go back, get the ratchet. All you need is a ratchet. It will do everything for you. The leopard. Such freaking fun, man. You know, you can't take this film too seriously. It's like, you know, some people try to take this film so seriously, and it's just, you got to just have fun. Come on, you know?
Yeah.
And this is literally 12 guys on a hill. Thank you, Jason Dunn, who was the effects coordinator, the supervisor, who was a friend from Loyola. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. You know, we can make like 12 guys look like 100. And it was literally just, we locked off the camera for that one shot. And then, This guy, we hired him not only because he was cool looking, he reminded me of the guy at the gate of Oz. That's why I cast him. He looked like the guy that comes out, he pops out of the gate at Oz and won't let him in. But also he spoke like 2 phrases in Russian. And I guess they're really, really nasty cuss words. And every time the Red Elvises would watch this movie, they would just laugh hysterically as soon as this guy starts talking. And they never told me exactly what he's saying. So even to this day, I don't know. But apparently it's pretty bad. And he just says the same stuff over and over again. So he's just constantly cussing in Russian. I don't know what he's saying. Yeah. For Brusky Tequila Kolikov. Yeah, that's not Russian, obviously. It's my translation. Here's my favorite line. Yuri Fuck-Novichev, Comrade Butsky. Oh my God, I need a beer. Or something. I didn't.
I do not like rock and roll music.
You-
It's too loud.
The Gatekeeper of Oz. We really were influenced by Wizard of Oz. I must have seen that film growing up, every year, 10, 20 times, who knows. And I really wanted this to be like, the yellow line of the road becomes like the yellow brick road.
Right.
Just sticking to this kind of child's fantasy, magical realist kind of a tone. I met Ridley Scott once at a screening, and he talked about how in this one really great chase scene they had in Blade Runner, there was maybe 10 extras, and it looked like there was 100. And that kind of taught me, if we just use the right lenses, you can turn 12 guys into 100 just with the edits and selective use of the camera. So it's like literally every shot you see is every guy that we had.
Right.
And that was all you, man. I remember you wanting to do that shot, that like 120 frames or whatever it was. And if you notice when he jumps up that hill, it's one take and one continuous motion. That was Jeff's athletic ability. It was so amazing. He would just jump up that hill in one leap. Incredible.
Yeah. No, Jeff was amazing.
And we had one real stunt guy, and his name escapes me at the moment. I'm sorry, but he would do the flips and stuff when the bomb would go off, and he would just flip like he was a Russian soldier, up in the air. Look at that. Now that was probably like 20 frames a second. There's Noe. That's Jeff's brother right there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that kick.
Now that's some great editing too.
Yes. Thank you, James Frieza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't they just shoot him? Since 57. Hey, Tiger Claw.
He was a great sport. He was a real martial artist that really could do this kind of stuff. And we didn't have time to shoot the entire scene. And we were going to do this big martial arts scene. And he wasn't disappointed about it. I said, look, we can't do everything, but do some really cool move. And then, you're just going to turn around and run. And that's what he did. And when he ran, I remember he cut his hand on one of those branches, pretty nasty. But he didn't break character. He just kept going. You can actually see it happening here. It hurts me every time. It's all 12 guys back there. We were supposed to have 20, only 12 showed up. And then he just turns around. That's where he did it. Oh, that hurt. The Steadicam work that we did in this scene was just so awesome.
Yeah.
Man, do I go back or do I not go back? People hate the kids yell. A lot of people don't like the kids yell, but and I was gonna change it in the re-release, but I thought, no, I'm not gonna be George Lucas and start changing stuff. Let's just leave it. It's like it's part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like I know it was mixed a little too loud. We had a very limited budget to do the mix, but You know, it is what it is. This shot right here, that's it. That's sweet. And the intensity on his face. The kid just screws everything up here. You know, Buddy would have won if it wasn't for the kid. But then there'd be no other, you know, third act.
Right.
This was Limpopo, this song, this playing in the background, which I always really liked. It was the band that Red Elvises had before they were the Red Elvises. And they used to play traditional Russian folk. So this is a traditional Russian folk song here that I played probably 1,000 times in developing and writing this scene, because I just, you know, that's how I work. I love visualizing to music. And Ridley Scott totally copied this stutter frame stuff. I think it was in Gladiator. I don't know.
He copied us?
I don't know if he really did, but I think we were the first people to do this.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, you know, this is totally Spielberg copied this shot at least, you know, a year later. Just kidding. Yeah. That'd be nice, though.
On the crane right there.
Yes, and I have some really nice shots to give you of that. I just recently found some. Every dead Russian we had right there.
Yep.
Oh, man. And I love the silence, you know, just the wind and, you know, just taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
James and I, the editor, always used to argue over the length of dissolves. I was always like, make them longer, keep it going. You know, really? That's crazy. It's okay. That especially that one dissolve right there. It was like this massive dissolve as Buddy comes out of the fight. And, you know, again, I just wanted to keep it in this kind of a dreamlike kind of motif we were going for.
Mm-hmm.
Justin was so awesome. He was such a trooper. You know, he was such a wonderful little boy. Who unfortunately I never knew as he grew up. I just never was able to stay in touch. And that outfit. I don't think any of those I think Buddy's outfit and his outfit weren't washed for the entire production. I mean, he was pretty ripe by the time we were done. That thing could stand up on its own and act without him. And this is really Jeff being drug down the street in like 110 degree temperatures.
Yeah, I love that. His glasses scraping on the pavement.
Yes. Yeah. This part of the score, no doubt, for real, is like my favorite. You know, this piece that Brian Tyler did here is it had this melancholy about it. You know, but with playing with the same themes. You know, there was a kid theme, there was a buddy theme. You know, it just kind of mixed the two here, you know, which in a minor, you know, kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
Brian was just, you know, more talent by 9 a.m. than most of us have in our lives. It's so amazing.
Who, Brian?
Yeah. Just pulls amazing scores out of nothing. These were our Panavision reps, and I think Cooper, one of our ACs, our Panavision, Tracy and another guy came up to visit for the day. Oh, no, that's actually not. That's a different guy. I don't know who that is.
Russians, bring his guitar to me. This time, no mistakes.
I love the way the Fujifilm just makes this pop so well, the blue skies against the brown. We really couldn't have picked a better film stock, and you know, it was so perfect for the look of the film.
Yeah, it was a really happy accident that we got that footage.
And it's just amazing that we get to see it again in 4K. I mean, it's killed me. I literally haven't watched the movie for years because I can't watch it in SD anymore on those new TVs.
Mm-hmm.
25 cents a frame in, 25 cents a frame out. I'll never forget that. Those are those effect shots. You know, it's every frame, 24 frames a second, cost us a quarter. That's why there's not very many effect shots back then.
Right. But I think the ones that we had, you know, were pretty effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we didn't overuse it, you know?
No. I really enjoyed Jeff's performance here. You know, it's like I always really, you know, he never really got an opportunity to act a lot in a lot of the Hong Kong movies that he did. And so this was really an opportunity for him to just be much more alive as a character. You know, it's just, you just...
Yeah.
That was my voice, one of the archers.
Mm-hmm.
Or hand over the guitar. Or Christian gets it. And in a lot of ways, I think that Jeff was not really like a professional actor. You know, he had never taken an acting class. He had never done any of that. You know, he was a martial artist. You know, like he was first and foremost who just fell into doing action work in Hong Kong. And I had a nice background working with new actors, having sort of been a founding member of a theater repertory company for a number of years and doing theater with new actors. So we hit it off really well because I wasn't treating him like he should be this, you know, Dustin Hoffman actor. You know, we were, you know, just kind of playing around and creating things as we went. And
yeah,
and it really brought out so much, I think, you know, potential in him. I mean, he really, looking at him now, is like he's just such a star.
Yep. And there are moments that he has that are really subtle in his acting that are really beautiful. I mean, really nice stuff.
I think that he may have done better afterwards. If he had taken some supporting roles, which I know he didn't want to do afterwards. Was, you know, he was offered X-Men. I don't know if he wasn't offered it. He was offered a meeting with Bryan Singer, I know, to do play Cyclops in X-Men. And I know that they may have actually offered him a scene with Jet Li in the Lethal Weapon movie that Jet Li was going to do. And he didn't want to do supporting roles. You know, it was part of his personality. You know, he wanted all or nothing, and you know, he was going to do a film with me, and kind of led to us having kind of a falling out afterwards because it just was something that, you know, he just always wanted all or nothing. That was Jeff, and you know, here he's just totally not playing the guitar, but this was our transportation coordinator who was also a heavy metal guy. So we put him in the costume for Jeff in this scene, and then he played this like heavy metal riff, and then Brian Tyler magically melded this all into something that made sense, you know, and that's all Brian playing the guitar, and created this just awesome musical sequence.
Yeah, I love the sequence, and you could see the burned trees from the fire you were talking about.
Yeah, and then this is totally Ron. You know, I think was my inspiration for this scene, you know, in terms of Akira Kurosawa and, you know, just the arrows, you know, I think it was Ron. Some CG arrows in there. This is one of the few storyboard pages that have survived. I actually have them on my wall, the scene, which we barely even looked at the storyboards anyway. I mean, we were moving so fast doing, 50, 60 setups a day. It's just, it was not, you know, it was so much about like just moving quickly, this film.
Yeah.
And also because of the light, you know, like we always wanted to capture that beautiful golden hour.
It was nice having professional storyboards, but yeah, we didn't get much of a chance to look at them.
Well, if you remember, I think your favorite and mine were just my little scratch storyboards. I used to take little, you know, yellow sticky pads and just put them all over a piece of paper and then just scratch out the shots. And then that way we could kind of move them around and do the editing ourselves. And that was very effective.
Yeah. See, that was coming straight from your head, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it didn't have to go through an artist, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like why I'm now moving into virtual production, and I'm doing a lot of narrative work and preparing to do that, and finally getting back into narrative work after decades, because it's like I love the immediacy of being able to do real-time filmmaking with virtual, and that way we don't have to go back to frickin' Death Valley and 120 degree heat to go shoot something. We can bring it to us, and give it this kind of a surreal quality that I love.
I love the sequence right here.
Yeah, me too.
Right there.
Me too. It's like I so wanted this sequence to just go exactly like this, because I was so, just such a moment. We've already shown that people can survive arrows in the back, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Jeff and I got into a huge argument, I remember, as to whether or not the archers should fight Buddy first, or Death should fight Buddy first, and then the arrows kill Jeff, kill Buddy. And I just remember saying, of course who cares if he has arrows in his back? Of course he can fight Death with arrows in his back. That's like, don't you know, that's so epic.
Yeah.
Jeff's not here to defend himself. He'd probably say something different, but it makes no sense that he has all these arrows in his back and he's fighting Death, but he's fighting Death. So it doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah.
And it's just incredibly badass.
Exactly.
It's all part of this dream-like world that we're seeing from this child perspective.
Yeah. This is all like Justin's experience of the fight, which I love.
Although, here's my favorite line of the whole movie.
You are weak and you've been defeated. Now,
Bend before the waves of heavy metal. Yeah! Oh my God, I love that line.
Yeah.
Dude, why are we not making movies today? Everybody write
do
your
it.
congressman. Tell them we want to make another movie together.
Oh man.
Yeah, we got to get something going.
Yeah. Love to.
And the music. This was right out of Return of the Jedi. Brian and I watched the end epic duel in Return of the Jedi. And we had the Red Elvises come in and sing the choir parts. And this was actually a Wushu sword champion that we flew in directly from China. That was a friend of Jeff's, because in this scene we actually needed a real sword fight. And so he's the guy in the costume now. Only there for like a couple of days. Just came in to shoot this one fight scene with Jeff. So these are two ultimate professionals that literally did this in like one or two takes, probably. We just did a few takes of this, and that was it. And then just knowing we could always cut away to the kid, we had a few different cutaways to go to when things didn't work. But for the most part, it was almost like just a couple of continuous takes. Leave him alone. Here's my Wizard of Oz tribute coming up.
Yep.
Killing the witch. Wait, what? And again, now this is not the Chinese sword champion. That was again our gaffer Stefan, who by that point had gotten back into the costume to play Death again. Yeah. He had some kind of like vinegar solution or something that makes smoke on his hands. I just happen to have this handy water bottle that I'm carrying in my raccoon hat. Because why not? And then now we're back to the Chinese sword guy who was agile enough to do this spinning that we then made like I think 5 frames, James Frieza and I, in a second to get this. I remember that guy was so dizzy. I felt so bad for him. He'd spinning around.
Was he on a turntable?
No, just him, just spinning around like a little kid.
Wow.
And my daughter does the same thing. And love this magic hour stuff. This was like there was just a hint of light left. You've never really been able to see it so clearly until this 4K transfer. And just loved the light on his face. We positioned him just right.
Mm-hmm.
Just love that. Love that.
Yeah.
This is my favorite scene in the whole film right here. I love this coming up. This nobody kills Top Hat. Dead. I love that. Backlighting, man. It's all backlighting. You can make anything look cool with backlighting. You know, just the rim on his cheek there, you know, just utterly beautiful. Justin McGuire, I miss him.
Yeah.
I miss a lot of people on this film. I miss Jeff, I miss Justin, I miss the experience, man. A lot of water under the bridge. And now Jeff's running naked somewhere in the forest. Jeff, just run naked. Why did he take his clothes off? I don't know. Looks cool. It's kind of like an Obi-Wan thing. Sets up the ending. So many people over the years have asked me, like, what is the symbolism of having Justin turn back into Buddy at the end? And I say, whatever it is that you can think of is far better than what I will tell you.
Nice.
But it's the dream-like nature. Notice the cowboy. You can see the cowboy in the background. I haven't been able to see that for years. This new 4K transfer allows you to see it. It's amazing. You can actually see. And there he is.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
I remember crying. This was the last thing that we shot on the film, and I remember looking around at you and Jeff and Justin and thinking it's never going to get this good again. Boy, was I wrong. No, just kidding. Christian, thank you for sitting in on this with me and for reminiscing.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
You know, it's you know, we really have to do this again. You know, I have a YouTube channel. I'm starting to put up some virtual reality stuff, and, you know, virtual production, and you know, that's where I'm focusing on now as a director, because I really think it's the future. I think in the next 5 years, it's so much of Hollywood is going to be doing kind of a mix of CG and real actors, and so I'm really looking forward. I want to do another film with you, whether it's a 6-string something or something different. You know, we're not out. You know, we gotta, you know, make up something new. And to anybody, you know, watching this, thank you for watching. And any last words, Christian?
No, Lance, it's been a pleasure doing this commentary, and also, as you know, I mean, it was definitely one of the best experiences of my life making this film with you, and with all the people in the film. You know, it was really why I went into cinematography in the first place, to be able to do what I love and to do it with people I love, and that was amazing. So thank you. Yeah, and you know, I'm sure Jeff Falcon's probably going to show up right after we release this and go, "What about I didn't get my opportunity to speak." But you know, this film would not have been possible without Jeff. You know, for whatever other, you know, things I'll say about Jeff. Jeff is an incredibly talented guy, and he did an amazing job on this film, both in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. And right now, you're seeing Campfire Crew come up. You know, and these were all of the people that worked on this film basically for nothing. I mean, they got compensated, you know, at the end, but these are all people that were just basically friends of mine from film school for the most part. And, you know, Betty and Jordan and George and, you know, so many of those people who showed up when we didn't have any money. I mean, you know, I was using my uncle's credit card and, you know, some student loans, and we literally ran out of gas money our last day, you know, making this film without a budget. And if it wasn't for Michael and Leanna and HSX Films, and then later Chris Blackwell and Palm Pictures coming in to distribute, the film wouldn't have been possible. I mean, you know, Tracy Morse also, I mean, you know, just amazing, you know, and I want to dedicate this to James Frieza and to Stefan and to, you know, the people who are no longer with us who made this film and who can't be here, you know, to do this. Yeah. And, you know, it's a very, very important part of my life, and I'm really glad that we get to share it anew with people, you know? Absolutely.
Dude, let's not wait another 20 some years to do something like this.
Hey, I'm ready, man. Just give me a call,
So
and I'll be there.
go to my YouTube page, everybody, and send checks now. No, just kidding. Unless you really want to. This has been a lot of fun, man. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of memories. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Lance.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.